high-speed line. On this point, the Cheshire first, and then to my honourable friend from Nuneaton in a second.
Has the Secretary of State had the opportunity to look at the Virgin Rail financial results that were out this morning, which certainly indicates that profits are down by 40.5%, but revenue is up by 2.8%, about the same rate as the fare increases, so the passenger increase must be very small. They say that they have now put on a 40% increase in capacity, and they have started this month a major advertising campaign to attract passengers. All that sound like a rail line that is full to capacity?
No, it sounds like a railway which is providing the services which all colleagues want to see actually happen. And the actual point that I made just a few moments ago was the fact that there are certain areas which my honourable friends are pressing me for further services which cannot be provided because Network Rail say there is not the availability on the current existing highways. I did promise to give way to my honourable friend for Nuneaton.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. He can rest assured that for a change I won't be using this as a pitch to get more fast services to Nuneaton on the West Coast Main Line. But in relation to the West Coast Main Line, can he assure me that despite the investment that's being made in HS2, that investment will still go into the West Coast Main Line to continue to improve the service and capacity on that line?
Indeed, and that's one of the points that I think becomes very apparent with the investment programmes we've got over the coming years that Network Rail will be carrying out. So I can assure my honourable friend it's not an either-or, it is an essential part of investing in both of these particular areas.
I thank the Secretary of State for giving way, and I would just like to add a thought on the capacity question that was just raised. Could he confirm that over the last 15 years, passenger numbers have increased by an average of 5% a year, and the business case for HS2 assumes 1.6% a year? Quite a conservative estimate.
Indeed, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend. Basically, 15 years ago we were talking about 750 million passenger journeys. The latest sort of estimate is 1.5 billion passenger journeys, which I would have thought would have been something that should have been welcomed by the Honourable Lady, for instance, about that massive shift in transport that is taking place. So, Mr.
No, it'll go slow.
Slow. Now there's a choice. There is a choice. But I think, being a bit of a conservative, if my honourable friend will forgive me, I will go to seniority.
Would my right honourable friend accept that in relation to my constituency, this project goes from top to bottom? It is deeply opposed by all and sundry. I've had meetings with thousands of people already, and will he accept that there is, according to the Public Accounts Committee, the pricing is unrealistic, it's untenable values for journey time savings, insufficient analysis of non-rail alternatives? What answer does he give to the Public Accounts Committee and to my constituents who are deeply angered by this?
What I say to my honourable friend's constituents is this. I understand that where a big piece of infrastructure of the size of HS2, it is obviously going to have an impact, and I respect and understand that, and I don't criticise those people who raise the objections which they raise. I want to come on later on to say what I want to say about compensation. What my honourable friend is also talking about is an area which we have not yet confirmed the route on, and we will be going out to a proper full consultation later this year, and he and his constituents will be able to make the points there, and I will want to see what can be done to help with some of the environmental points. But I would also point out to my honourable friend that he has got part of the West Coast Main Line, I think, going through his constituency, and when that was built, that was also very unpopular too, but it is actually very beneficial to the area, because I know my honourable friend quite often uses the train from Stafford, I think, to get to.
Grateful to the Honourable Lady, and I'm also grateful to both her and the Secretary of State for being so understanding about the problems that this scheme is going to cause my constituents and my constituency. But would she agree with me that if you are going to spend what is now going to be in excess of £50 billion minimum on a project of this sort, that you would expect it to connect effectively, possibly to HS1 and to Heathrow? And isn't it right to say that going ahead with this project project and looking at that phase 1 route at this stage before the Howard Davis review into airport capacity is really putting the cart before the horse.
I think it's fair to say that there are concerns about connectivity and what's happening at the southern end, but I think it's also fair to say that the government of the day must decide, and whilst it's reasonable for the opposition to raise issues in projects that take place over multiple parliaments, we have to accept as an opposition that we're not quite as well resourced to come up with well thought through alternatives as the government of the day, and so the government of the day does indeed have to make decisions. It's fair enough, I think, for opponents and for those who support the scheme to raise issues, but with a recognition that the government of the day, if they're ever to be delivered, do have to decide on the way forward. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the delays and criticism over the budget, there are also serious concerns over HS2 Limited itself. Initially set up to advise ministers on the route for the new North-South line, the government has expanded its role to include both building the support for the scheme and then also delivering the scheme. Yet HS2 Limited has faced criticism for the way in which it's engaged with communities along the route, with local authorities and with MPs. The fact is, it's not proved to be an effective advocate for this scheme. The National Audit Office has also issued a warning on this, saying that the programme has a complicated governance structure. This is because the department aims to preserve some independence for its development body, HS2 Limited, whilst also maintaining effective governance. And by divorcing this scheme from delivery of the investment in the existing rail network, there's a risk that we do not focus on the need to create a fully integrated single rail network. It makes no sense that Network Rail is having to, in effect, mirror some of the work of HS2 Limited, including appointing staff of its own to work on the scheme and having to lobby HS2 Limited to ensure decisions are taken in a way that does not impact in a negative way on the wider network.
Is she aware that HS2 are saying that they want to use the North London line for the link because, and I quote them, it is assessed to have less construction risk than a tunnel. Is she aware that the man from Bechtel, who masterminded the successful Channel Tunnel link and the refurbishment of St Pancras, decided to do a double-bore tunnel from Barking to St Pancras because it was less risky to have a double-bore tunnel than to use the North London line? And who would she trust?
I'd undoubtedly trust my right honourable friend to be able to absolutely no doubt about that. But I think the point that both the honourable gentleman and my right honourable friend make does illustrate the fact that there is still concern and controversy about this. I believe there should be a solution devised that can minimise the impact on communities in Camden, whilst ensuring that we don't miss a perfect opportunity to redevelop Euston in the right way for the long term, and it is something that I believe the government should keep looking at. The government must also be, I will of course...
Really grateful to her for giving way, because I think we're going to be restricted to speaking for only 6 minutes in the main debate, which is going to be hard to say everything that's built up over 4 years in 6 minutes. From what she is saying, would I be right in understanding that, in fact, her party may look at a different route for HS2, because the very point she's making on connectivity to HS1 and to Heathrow actually lean towards another route that was originally on the set of proposals, one that was not chosen by this government?
I don't think it would be fair to assume that I'm advocating that at the time of the next general election, if I were to have the right honourable gentleman's role thereafter, that we would tear everything up. I've made very clear that when one has projects across parliaments, it's important to cooperate properly and to understand that decisions have to be made. I think, however, we have to see where we're at by the time we get to there, and I would certainly want to take every opportunity to make sure that the nation gets the best possible outcome from this, the money that's going to be spent. We'll just have to see where we're at the time that we get to the next general election. I'm not interested in delaying going forward.
In effect, Mrs. Cheryl Gillan.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the amendment that stands in my name and in the name of others across the House. Can I first of all just start off by paying tribute to all my constituents and volunteers who have worked absolutely tirelessly to protect our interests in the Chilterns, whether it's been HS2 Action Alliance, 51M, Stop HS2, our Conservative councillors, or all the conservation groups. They have all worked so hard, they deserve all our thanks and congratulations. Because if HS2 goes ahead, there is no doubt that Chesham and Amersham and the Chilterns will be badly affected by this project. Indeed, I think my constituents, Mr. Speaker, will be paying twice, once through their taxes and once again through the disruption and the blight that they are suffering. We've heard that this project was dreamt up under the last Labour government, and I'm glad the Shadow Secretary of State took responsibility for it. The mistake we made, I felt, was adopting it without asking the proper questions. And now, after 3 Secretaries of State in as many years, we now have a £50 billion project, so we heard today, not connected to any airport or other transport system such as HS1, and divided into 2 phases, with no guarantee that the northern route will be built even in my lifetime. I think we're also looking at a project that could be... I'm
grateful to the Right Honourable lady, who is an excellent constituency MP, but she should know that the route north of Birmingham includes Manchester Airport. And as a candidate who aspired to represent Manchester, had she won that election, do you think she would have a different position on this matter now?
But fortunately I was elected to represent Chesham and Amersham. So I don't have to answer that hypothetical question. But I also think that this project is almost 30 years out of date. 30 years ago, I might have been supporting it. I think people are looking to save costs in business by using teleconferencing and super-fast broadband. They're trying to reduce the amount of travel that their employees make. And if we are in a global race, Mr. Speaker, I would be much happier if we were, in fact, connecting effectively to Heathrow and to HS1. Because at the moment we don't even seem to be able to repair our existing roads and railways, and you can't use the M25 without being stuck in a traffic jam. Surely we should be looking at our infrastructure and maximising on its potential before building a bright, new, shiny railway. In fact, last week, the New Economics Foundation did an excellent piece of work. They published a report examining a variety of projects across the country that could be procured for the same sum of £33 billion. And that included some very valuable improvements for northern cities, active transport systems, and of course much more super-fast fibre-optic broadband, which we need to deliver the competitivity in this country of our businesses. Now, I may have been a NIMBY. When I started off, I was a NIMBY, but I certainly have studied this project, and I am convinced that it is the wrong project. And I'm not alone in questioning HS2. We've heard what the National Audit Office has said. Its report was damning. It highlighted that the department had failed to outline clear strategic objectives. It's made errors in calculating the cost-benefit ratio. It's not sufficiently engaged with stakeholders, and casts serious doubt over the capability of HS2 Limited to even deliver this programme alongside the other demands on the department. The judicial reviews resulted in a judgment that was shaming of the department, finding that its consultation on compensation was so unfair as to be unlawful. And the Major Projects Authority's reports, which government continues to refuse to publish in detail, even though the Information Commissioner has said it's in the public interest for them to do so, indicate that this project is in the red-amber category, denoting a very high risk of this project failing to be delivered on time or on budget.